Alright YouTube, welcome to the second ever video of Kyle's Global Weather. Today, we're going to be breaking up this video into 3 different segments. The first segment is going to be teaching you guys just a hint at something educational. Then, we're going to be diving into something going on in Japan. And we're going to end it off as what I expect to be the usual, which would be a forecast of the tri-state area. Let's get into it. And as you can tell right now, I'm trying out this editing software where I can record videos of my different tabs and add audio to it. It looks pretty promising. We'll see how it works out in the future. But with that said, let's start the video. So I never really explained what this website was in the previous video. This is called Pivotal Weather. And you can check so many different values, models, radars, just anything. You see we have these five or six categories of parameters on the left-hand side. We go through upper air, surface and precipitation, upper air in terms of moisture, dynamics, and then severe weather and even winter weather. So we're eventually going to dive into all those different categories throughout the course of even like the next year. And I don't even know if we're going to finish covering all of the basic things about that because meteorology is just such a complex subject. So that's that section. Then we bring it to this top left section, which is just the forecast hour. When you see different hours highlighted, that is the hour in the future from which this model was released. It says the run right here, Monday, March 11th, 2024, 12Z. This is according to international time, and that's about 5 hours east of Eastern time zone for my people living in America. So when it says 12Z, that really means 7 a.m. But these are the guidelines for which most of the major weather models are released. It's either at 0Z, 12Z, or sometimes in the 6-hour intervals in between them. But we'll always explain a lot more later. And this is a map of something which I'm about to explain. And at the top, we have the different models, different ways we can zoom, and just different ways we can orient the model in general. But we can examine those in further detail next time. All right, let's get into this. So this particular weather model is something called height anomaly. And we're going to explain it very briefly right here. The next video will cover a lot more, maybe even get into some of the math and physics about how we calculate this sort of thing in the first place. But if we look at a map, this shows the current height anomaly in the United States. Okay, I want to say that again. This is current news. This is not something that exists in general. This is something that changes over time. As you see, as I progress the hours out, the colors change, stuff changed. We'll get into all of that. All right. But basically, 500 millibars is a amount of pressure. At the surface, it could be something like 1,000, give or take 20 on a normal day. It's probably usually a little bit higher than that, around 1,020 range. But as you start working your way up into the atmosphere, the pressure is going to drop. And at some point, around 18,000 feet, give or take, above the ground, you'll be experiencing 500 millibar pressure, which is roughly half the pressure we have at surface level. And this is very useful. This is actually like one of the most useful tools that meteorologists have. It can determine the severity, placement, and just like weather patterns in general of low and high pressure systems. And it's such a commonly used tool. Like I can't reiterate that enough. But anyways, let's get into it. This is in terms of decameters. I said 18,000 feet. When you see on this graph right here, you see these little numbers around 560, 550. Those amount of decameters is roughly equal to 18,000 feet. And these isobars, or lines that connect numbers of the same value, anywhere on these lines, it's going to be the same value. Now, what differs because of the colors. That's what makes this an anomaly graph. An anomaly graph is a departure from average. When you see these warmer colors, this is indicating that this is above average for this location. You can see 12 decameters above average. That means at 12 decameters higher than usual is where we start experiencing 500 millibars of pressure. Because that is higher up in the atmosphere, there is more mass of air and therefore higher pressure below it. This, like 90% of the time, plus, it just indicates higher pressure for this region. And then over here to the right, you can see a very significant drastic departure, negative 34 decameters. That indicates a strong low pressure system or something. We don't know exactly which layer of the atmosphere this is in, like particularly located. We can see it pops up in the 500 millibar range, but it requires other tools to locate that kind of thing. But this can still be a good range, a good model in general to determine that kind of stuff. So with that being said, that's a brief introduction. Some of that might not make any sense, but as you can just see with this graph, the isobars move up and down, change over time, and this basically indicates different air masses interacting with each other, and the weather pattern is changing over time. So that brings us to our next segment about Japan. Let's try to bring that same logic over to Japan. We see these blue colors indicating below average anomalies. And you can see as the time progresses, look at this top bar right here, gets deeper and deeper blue and purple, centered right over Honshu Islands. And that indicates a low pressure system. We could get into this a lot more, but I don't see this to be a major event for Japan. I think this is just one of those late winter moderate snowstorms, but it's still pretty interesting to talk about because we're getting into mid-March and this kind of stuff is still happening. We're not going to focus on the blue or reddish colors for this one. All we're going to focus on is the precipitation. Now, remember how I said there was lower pressure at the area of Japan? As you can see right here, green, yellow, red. A low pressure system popping out 1,005 millibars at the surface, which is a little bit below average. You can see as time progresses, this low pressure only deepens. Hour 18, 992. Hour 24, 986. This storm is close to undergoing something we call bombogenesis. And this is kind of a tangent, but it basically describes a storm undergoing a transformation of a pressure change. And the change is so drastic that it'll undergo a 24 millibar difference in 24 hours. That's very possible with this system. 979. If you go from here, 1,005. That's certainly possible. We're probably going to see that happen. It's about 26. You can see the storm kind of exits out. It's about maybe 12, 18-hour time frame for snowfall to occur. And there's not enough cold air for this to really reach the biggest cities, the lowest elevation. But, Japan is like 70% mountains. So, this is going to be covering a lot of land if you just look at it like that. That brings us to this map. Kind of spoiled a little bit. But, in the next 36 hours, we can expect anywhere from maybe 2 to 3 feet of snow. The majority of places might only get like a foot, but there could be some higher totals as you move your way to the highest peaks in Honshu Islands. See an extremely steep drop off as you just go to the mainlands. Zero snow totals for southeast of these mountains right here. Okay, I already showed this. Okay, so that brings us to our final segment, just talking about simple little forecast for the New York City area. and we're just going to bring back the same exact map as we started the video with. Look, as we see time progress, these deeper purple colors, they move out of the way. And what takes its place is these above average heights, orange colors, and they flood the area and they only get deeper and deeper over time. This indicates higher pressure, and as we'll get into more with future videos, in this scenario, it means warmer air, which it does mean most of the time, but there are exceptions. It's going to be a very warm period for the foreseeable future for New York City. There may be some outliers with storms, but besides that, just above average for this time of year, 100%. We can look at this map showing absolutely no precipitation until maybe later in the week, Friday. You get a few scattered showers. Maybe I'll talk about this in a community post later, but otherwise, shouldn't be anything too major. Yeah, just really clear weather for the next 4 days. If we look at the Weather Channel, it's predicting forecast might even be up to 70 degrees. Oh, I don't know why this isn't popping up in Celsius. I want to have it be like that for this channel, but 20 degrees Celsius for Thursday, 18 degrees Celsius for Wednesday, like 16 degrees Celsius for Tuesday. That is very warm for New York City. We had a snowstorm a month ago at this time. It's just crazy what weather can do. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hoped every segment of that was informative in some way. This is the first time I'm doing this without a script. Honestly, I was using a little bit of a script last time to prepare for what I was going to say, but this time was all on the spot. So, happy I was able to get through that. I think it sounds pretty nice, and yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Peace.